Welcome in. Today we're talking about how to increase our strength and mobility, how we can beat pain without hours of foam rolling, stretching, or corrective exercises. And this is all done for not just ourselves, but for our kids so we can keep up with them, so we can challenge our bodies and stay active. To not waste any of your time, this video is for you if you are a parent. You're battling pain and stiffness. You feel guilty or frustrated that pain stops you from being able to run around with your kids. You have difficulty challenging yourself in the gym or staying active, whether that's golf, running, whatever that may be for you. And you're ready to get stronger and more mobile so you can enjoy life without worrying about this pain slowing you down. Now, if you watch this video to the end, I'm going to share with you my exact four-step process that has allowed me to help over 1,000 parents get stronger and more mobile to allow them to be able to keep up with their kids without the fear of pain, injury, or uncertainty. Now, I want you to imagine a future where you can do these things. One, being able to chase your kids around the backyard without any aches holding you back. Wake up every day feeling strong, flexible, and ready for whatever life throws your way. You can tackle your workouts without worrying about flare ups or stiffness later. You go play golf, go for a run, travel, and live your life without the fear that your pain will get worse. If you use this exact three-step process, this is exactly what's possible. This has helped Alicia go from having severe upper back pain and migraines multiple times a week, which required her to take a weekly 1 hour drive to our chiropractor, to having now migraines a couple times a year, virtually no pain, and she has dropped 30 pounds. Now she sees her chiropractor every 1 to 2 months, and this is simply because she enjoys going there. It helped Addie go from struggling with neck and shoulder pain, which kept her from performing pull ups and push ups, to being pain free. And now she can do 15 full push ups, 5 pull ups. And this happened all within 4 months. And she doesn't have any nagging flare ups that she used to have. And it helped Mercedes go from having lower back pain when treating her patients and playing with her son to being pain free, dropping 10 pounds, and getting compliments from her husband again. And before I dive into it, I want to share with you my own personal story and why I put this training together. Really, it all comes down to how I learned to listen to my body while focusing on mobility and strength and using this as the beacon to getting out of pain. Even if you were like me, who prior to this had tried almost everything under the sun to get out of pain. This was a couple years ago. I had a moment when playing with my daughter that drove significant neck pain. One afternoon, I was playing with her. We were having a great time. We were playing peekaboo. We were wrestling with each other. And then all of a sudden, she leaped onto my stomach, which completely caught me off guard. Instinctively, as I braced for the impact, I felt a sharp, straining pain in my neck, and it made it impossible for me to lift my head off the floor. When this happened, I yelled at Olivia to get her to stop. And she was giggling, laughing, and the second that happened, the smile ran off her face and it broke my heart. Um, I was unable to play with her in that moment, and I had to lay there for at least 20, 30 minutes just to get up because I couldn't lift my head off the floor. And if we fast forward a little bit after that, the pain stuck around for a while and it became very frustrating that it really affected my workouts and didn't allow me to push my body the way that I wanted. I have tried just about everything up until this point: acupuncture, chiropractor, physical therapy, massages, foam rolling, stretching. If it's there, I have given it a try. But the only results that I've gotten with many of these things were short-term relief. And just like you, it was getting to a point where I thought this was my new normal. I was in constant pain. That made me cautious to work out, made me not want to push my body as much, and affected to some degree how I'd play with my children. And I remember one afternoon I was going through my usual workout, did my mobility, my stretching, all that stuff on the front end. And went into my workout and did some bench press. And because I've been doing everything that I felt like I needed, and just jumped right in, tried to push it a little bit. And immediately, as I started to push it, my neck tightened up, became painful. And I realized that I was making one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of my clients make. So I decided it was time to start to prioritize listening to my body and using the painful movements in this example here at the bench press as a rehab exercise and not a fitness exercise, so I can get my neck and my shoulders to adapt to it faster, smoother, and better. And once I made this happen, this change happen, I can now bench without pain. I can do pull-ups. I can play with Olivia. I can sit on the couch and relax with my wife at the end of the day without feeling like I constantly need to stand or change positions. And for years, I've been using the same exact system to help coach over 1,000 parents get out of pain so they can be active and keep up with their kids without the fear of pain, injury, or uncertainty. And my mission is to help over 10,000 parents get out of pain for good. So if you want to be an active parent, you must not only just improve your joint health and mobility and strength and all that stuff, but you really need to understand your pain better. So let's jump into the exact four-step process that I use to help over 1,000 parents get out of pain, become more active so that they can keep up with their kids without the fear of pain, injury, or uncertainty. Here's a quick overview of all the steps that we're going to be going through. So we're going to be starting off with the root cause of your pain, figuring out what that is. Going into step 2, which is bringing down your pain. Step 3 is dosing the poison. And step 4, working on joint health, mobility, and strength. All right, diving into the first step here, the root cause. So this is the root cause, and what we do here is we find out exactly what is causing your pain. So we can create a clear game plan as far as to what needs to be done to not only help you feel better, but to not waste any time and use wasted on exercises and strategies that don't actually help. And one of the most common things that tend to happen here is that people um, over focus on the area that is causing them discomfort or feeling stiff, which isn't always the area that is driving or causing their pain. And this is when you start to see these. Maybe what you do makes you feel better for a short period of time, but it continues to come back over and over again. So that's one of the things that kind of pops up here. So my client Alicia was dealing with rib pains for months. She was having her back adjusted every couple of weeks with no results. And then during our assessment, we were able to reproduce her pain with scapular movement. And then we started to address her scapula, and all of a sudden her pain started to feel better. So there's an example here that even though her pain was happening around her ribs and her mid to upper back, and her chiropractor was treating this specifically, it wasn't the actual cause of her pain. And once we went out there and addressed the scapula, which is what was reproducing her pain, we were able to get her to start to feel better. All right, step 2 is bringing down the pain. This sounds kind of very obvious here. But in reality, what we're trying to do here is introduce exercises that immediately reduce pain and boost confidence. So if we find throughout some process that, we talked in the past about, exercise that might make you feel better in the short term, sometimes we can really utilize those exercises in the first week or two to really start to bring down pain. And what pretty much I describe it is we triple down these exercises. If you have low back pain and stretching your hamstrings, I'm just going to make up something here, makes it feel better, then we can do that throughout the day to help your day feel a little bit more comfortable without your pain flaring back up. But the more that we do this, the pain levels will start to come down, and then that will allow us to move really on to step 3 as we start that process. So my client Joe, he was struggling with shoulder pain while golf and overhead movements. We found that doing self-massage to the front of his shoulder over here really improved some of the things that we were trying to improve, like his external rotation mobility. And he had a noticeable change in pain-free motion directly after doing this. So what did we do? We had him do constant self massage to the area. Then we started to train that external rotation position over and over again because it gave him that pain-free range of motion. The same thing with reaching overhead. And as we started to load that and do that more and more over a couple week period of time, that motion, pain-free and active, was way different than it was 2 weeks prior. So just by finding one thing or two things that can help bring down pain and allow us to get a little bit more load into the tissue really made a difference here. As pain starts to come down, we go through this concept of dosing the poison. What dosing the poison really means is we're trying to use some of the exercises that were once painful for somebody and reintegrate it back as a rehab exercise. So in my case, when I was talking about the bench press being painful and I wanted to use it more as a rehab exercise than a fitness exercise, this is exactly what I was talking about. So we use it as a way to allow the tissues to adapt to the once painful things slowly so we can rebuild strength safely without those flare-ups happening. So my client had she was unable to do push-ups or pull-ups due to suffering from chronic neck and shoulder pain. And mainly what we did here was integrate elevated push-ups and horizontal rowing as our starting point. These were able to find something that brought minimal discomfort on. It didn't linger around after the sessions, and we were able to start there to load the tissue. If we fast forward to today, she was able to build her way back up to doing 3 sets of 15 push-ups and doing 3 sets of 6 pull-ups. All of these were PRs for her. And this, she has recently told me like 2 weeks ago that she is right now the strongest in her upper body that she has ever been. And if we look at this case, push-ups and pull-ups, they seemed very far away from where we were working. She was having to do push-ups almost completely vertical, not able to do pull-ups at all. And we had to find ways to reintroduce movement. And over just a few months, we were able to make huge changes. And then we were able to just progressively load her to get stronger and stronger from there. And that leads us to our final step here. It's building joint health through active mobility and strength training. The whole goal here is to build on top of the first 3 steps and making your body stronger than it was before the injury. And this goes on beyond just your typical strength training. We need to go back to dosing the poison, and we need to continue to load the injured tissue until its capacity is so improved that you're back to where you were from a performance perspective, or we're beyond that. And as we can do that effectively, it makes it harder to re-injure yourself. And the image here that you're seeing on the side here is a kind of formula that represents what I'm talking about here. So injuries happen when a load goes into the tissue that is stronger than the tissue's capacity. If you are running and you trip over something and you roll your ankle, if that load going into the tissue is greater than the force it can produce, we sprain your ankle. And then depending on the severity, it can be a high ankle sprain, a medium, or a low. You get the idea there, right? When we're rehabbing somebody, we have to find exercises where the load is less than somebody's capacity. So when we have an injury, capacity for those tissues is lower. We find movements and exercises that you can safely reintroduce to so that we can start to build that capacity up slowly. And then when we get to performance training again, we get to a higher level and we're really starting to dose the poison and kind of really start to work towards building active mobility and strength. We're trying to get the load to become pretty much the capacity to go up higher. So we're really starting to load things up, build capacity. And that's what we're talking about with, I don't like the word prevention because we can never prevent injury, but injury mitigation or reducing your risk for injury. This is exactly what we're trying to do with that. So you have a couple options here. One, you can do this alone like me and spend lots of time and money to try and figure it out, or you can skip those steps and work with me one-on-one directly to achieve these results. There's a link below to book a 15-minute call with me. We won't necessarily, well, we definitely won't be talking about any specific programs on that call. It's really just a call for us to connect, get to know each other, meet to find out more about what's going on, and then from there we can strategize. So if you want that shortcut to bringing down your pain and getting more active, just hit the link below and start the application. If we were to ever work together, this is exactly what's included. You'll get a full assessment so we can find out the root cause of your pain and where your movement limitations lie. Based off of that assessment, we create a custom mobility and strength training program so we can, you know, dose the poison, bring down your pain, and get your joints and muscles stronger. Uh, I teach you how to understand your pain better so we can give you the tools to take care of your own body, understand what your pain means when we're pushing too hard, when we need to push more, things within that nature. And we have weekly check-ins and coaching so that you can have a soundboard for when pain feels overwhelming or scary. And honestly, this is one of the most valuable things. What happens when shit hits the fan? These check-ins, messaging, coaching, all that stuff really allows us to figure out what happens when flare-ups do happen, how do we navigate those things, and then how do we, pretty much put your time to the best use so that you're doing what you need to do to always move the needle forward. And that exact same framework had helped Alicia, who went from having chronic pain and migraines to feeling strong and being able to tend to her farm. It helped Addie, who went from skipping upper body training because of her pain to hitting personal best on push ups and pull ups. And Mercedes, who went from having pain that kept her from playing with her son to being pain free, playing with her kid, and getting more compliments, not just from her husband, but she's telling me from her coworkers as well. And I feel so confident that I can help you that I'm offering a 120-day money back guarantee. If you do not feel like you've made progress, you won't pay. I'll offer a full refund. And with it being said, this is risk-free, right? You can just drop down below, fill out the application form, and book your 15-minute call there. And worst case, we chat on a call, you are in a good fit, and I can help you figure out what your next steps look like. Best case, we decide to work together. You get out of pain, you become more confident in your body so you can keep up with your kids, be an active parent, and challenge your body again. So you know what to do. Drop that link below, fill out the application, and book your 15-minute call. Looking forward to chatting with you.